Welcome to part 2 of this Firebase tutorial stuff. In the previous video, I made a very simple game where you tried to click as much as you could, and then you type in your initials, and you hit submit, and your score gets sent to a database as part of Firebase. And we can see that that score is here right now. If that one that I just submitted, as I look in the Firebase console, we can see it right there. So now what I need to do is I need to figure out a way to ask for all the data from the database itself and display those results on the web page. And then anytime a new high score is submitted, the data could be shown as well. So, OK, so what I'm going to do is in the code, I need to say, hey, the part of the database that I want to access, the reference, the path to the reference is scores. And then what I want to say is ref on. So on, what I'm now doing is I'm saying I want to start to bind different kinds of events. So there are all sorts of kinds of events. One particular kind of event is, hey, there's data. And that particular event is a value. So I want to say on the event value, I want to have two callbacks now. I want to call back a function that gets triggered where I can receive the data. And then I also need to call back in case there's an error. I can't remember which one goes where. Let's guess. I'm going to make a function called getData. And then err for error data. And I might have gotten those reversed. And I'm going to just add those functions now. Got data, data. And I'm going to say err data, error. And I'm going to say console.log error, console.log error. And then I'm going to do console.log data here. So let's see if I got that right. So what should happen is right when the program starts, I should see some data in the console. So let's look at that. Oh, that looks promising. So I don't think this is the error, but you can notice, like, is there any way I'm ever going to make sense of this? What is this crazy JavaScript object? So the thing about it is Firebase has its special magical way of doing things, and the data that I actually want is in. I have to retrieve it with a function. So this thing that comes in is a full JavaScript object with lots of functionality and all syntax that you can do. And I think if I call .val, I'll see the actual data. There we go. That looks more promising. And you can see, look at this. This looks like an array. It actually is not an array. Sorry, it looks like an array. But this is an object where the keys, each key is bound to an object that has the initials and the score. Initials in the score, initials in the score. So what I want to do now is iterate over all of those keys to display all the scores on the page. So how do I iterate now? If I had an array, I would just write a for loop. Or I could use a for each loop. Everybody always complains that I don't use for each loops. I don't know, I'm just like a little baby programmer and they scare me. I like a good, anyway, I just like code to be sort of readable, and it's just a convention that I'm adopting. Someday I'll use some for each loops, for all of you who are wondering. So what I want to do is I'm going to actually say var scores equals data.val. And then I'm going to say what I want to do is say keys equals object.keys. I think this is how I do this in JavaScript. Object.keys, or maybe it's getKeys, but this should give me an array of all the keys in that JavaScript object. Let's try this. That looks promising. Yep. So now I have an array with all the keys, those keys to the data. So now I can say for var I equals 0, I is less than keys.length, I plus plus, var the key is keys index I. Whoops. And now I can say the score, the name or the initials is scores index, scores index k dot initials, and the score is scores index k, right? That's the key. It's not. It's score. Okay, I think I'm doing this right. I'm gonna and I'm gonna I just want to console log it to see that it works. So there we go. Oh, I don't know why I got undefined 43. I wonder if initially I didn't call it initials. So let's go back. Let's see, why did I get undefined? So yeah, look at this. These first, and this, by the way, is the first things I put in the database. So I just need to delete these. that were like old data when I was like testing. This is the wonderful thing about Firebase. I can just remove them right here. So now this one is correct. So now I can run this again. And I can see there's all the initials and high scores. So this is good. And by the way, I want to show you something that's going to happen. This is going to be crazy. I'm going to add my initial, and I need different initials. RBW, and I'm going to get some points here, and I'm going to hit submit. Look, I added something new to the database, and an event got triggered that showed me all the data. So this is what's so great about Firebase. I can set up an event, just call that function anytime, anywhere the data changes. So I don't need like a separate like update data method. This is always going to happen. So what should I do? I want to display those the high score list here. So I don't know how fancy I want to get about this, but I'm going to do it in a slightly fancy way. It's not going to be very fancy. I'm going to, in advance, set up a list, an ordered list, and I'm going to give that an ID score list. And I'm putting some stuff in HTML. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say var li equals create element. So this is a document.create element. This is the same sort of, I'm just using the P5 DOM library. Create element, I want an li element that has as its content initials plus colon space plus score. And then I want to say li.parent, what did I call that? Score list. So that's going to create that element and then put it in the score list. And so here we go. We should see there's the score list, and it's always at the top. So look, now I've retrieved the data from the database, and there it is. Now, interestingly enough, what happens if I submit again, and I do uni with another? Look, all of those came in again, because anytime the data changes, it refills my whole list. So what I actually want to do is I need to also, in this getData function, I need to clear the list. Boy, after doing these videos for a while, my brain starts to melt. So I don't know. There's probably a bunch of ways I could do this. I'm going to just also give it a class, which is like a score listing. I'll call it score listing. So all these elements, I'll assign them to a class, because now I can just say at the beginning here, I could say something like score listings equals select all dot score listing. So I could, before I'm about to, and I'm sure there's a much more efficient way I could do this, but just to sort of like finish this off, dot length I++. So this is a function in the P5 library that allows me to select and get an array of elements. I want all the elements that are part of that class. And since everything I created was assigned this class, before I regenerate that list, let me just clear it. So I'm going to say score listings index I dot remove. So now what this should do is I should see those are the scores. And now I'm going to add another one, AAA with 4, and we can see that just gets added there. So now we have a fully featured web application with a simple game. Now I hate that the game is below the score list, and I just have to fix it. So I'm going to fix that. I've done this in like a kind of ridiculously horrible way that I don't like, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a div, and I'm going to call it game. And what I'm going to do is all the other elements that I'm making, what I made in the code, I'm going to parent them to the div which is above. This is so silly that I'm doing this, but I just can't help it. So I'm going to say canvas.parent. What did I call that again? Game. Create P. And I can actually chain these kind of functions. Parent, game. And then the buttons, I should initial input. Oh, but you could do, there's so many ways this could be improved. But I'm just doing it this way because it's going to work and it's going to make me feel happy. and a submit button parent. So now, there we go. So now I can play this game. Oh, where's that click button? The submit button, the initial input. Oh, I forgot about this button. So now we can see here, I can get a high score, and I can say, I can have another set of initials, A, B, C, hit submit, and we can see there it is. And anytime I refresh this page, I come back to this web application, I've got, hello? Oh, I'm in Firebase, yeah. Anytime I come back and I refresh this web application, I've got the high score list from before. So there we go. We now have a fully fledged web application with a game that you can play, a place for you to type in your initials, a place for you to submit your score, and a high score list that will be stored for all time in a Firebase database, and that is always updated whenever. So if multiple people and multiple clients were playing this game, this would update even as you're playing the game. One thing that I want to point out that I haven't done yet in this, and I haven't needed for this example, is sometimes I want to, as soon as I add something to the database, have that key in my local code so I can update or change or work with that particular record that's in the database itself. So, for example, what if I wanted to, instead of every time I do DTS and hit submit again, it overrides my previous entry? So a way that I can do that is right here, when I actually push data to the database, I actually get something back. And what I get back is kind of like a result, I'm going to call it. This object that has all this information about what I just did to send. And one thing that's in there that's actually generated through the library itself is the key. So I think if I console log now result.key, anytime I add something to the database, we should see BFG. And I'm going to hit BFG is going to have a nice score. And I can see there's the key. So you can see I have access immediately to that key, and I can also store that in a variable. I know the one that was just submitted. So there's a lot more things that you might want to do here. So I finished this up. I've got this whole working example. And I'm going to give you some exercises if you want to try to build, first of all, make a more interesting game. Second of all, could you sort this high score list by the highest score? Does Firebase do that for you, or is it up to you to sort the data once you get it back? Interesting question. Tell me your answer in the comments. The other thing you might do is, be able to override your own score during an individual session by updating a particular key. So at some point I'll have to add another tutorial on how to update records in the database, and if you're interested in that, I don't have a video yet, write that in the comments. But what I'm going to do one more video as a coding challenge about working with Firebase, and I'm going to create an application where you create a drawing, and that drawing gets saved to a Firebase database, and then you have a kind of gallery of all of the drawings that other people have made. So a kind of collective crowdsourced drawing library. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you soon.